When a mother's worst nightmare becomes reality, DNA and forensic evidence are the only things that can reveal the truth. But what Lena Brooks uncovers about her daughter's murder will shatter everything she thought she knew about love, betrayal, and the haunting secrets hiding within her own family. Will the truth bring closure or tear her apart forever? Lena Brooks sat alone in her kitchen, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. Her fingers absent-mindedly traced the edges of a photograph, the last picture she had of her daughter, Emily. The young woman smiled back at her, full of life, her eyes full of dreams that would never come true. It had been 5 years since Emily was found dead, her life stolen from her in a brutal and senseless murder that left no answers. The police had given up. The case was cold, its traces disappearing into the shadows of forgotten files. Lena had spent countless nights staring at the walls of her home, haunted by the sound of Emily's laughter that she could no longer hear. Every corner of the house was filled with memories that now felt like curses. She'd never been able to let go, but she had learned to live with the pain. She had to. There was no choice. Then, the phone rang. Lena's heart skipped a beat as she picked it up, the caller ID showing an unfamiliar number. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was another telemarketer, but then she heard the voice on the other end. "Ms. Brooks, this is Detective Amanda Cole with the City Police Department. I need you to sit down." Lena's blood ran cold. She had heard those words before, during the initial investigation, when everything was still raw, still fresh. "What is it?" she asked, her voice shaking. "We've reopened your daughter's case. We've found something important." Lena's hands trembled as she put the phone down. Her mind raced. What could it be? Was this just another false lead? The past few years had been full of dead ends, empty promises, and false hope. She didn't know if she could handle another disappointment, but Detective Cole's words echoed in her mind. "We've found something important." The next few days were a blur. Lena met with Detective Cole at the precinct. The detective's expression was serious, but there was a flicker of hope in her eyes that Lena hadn't seen in years. "We've sent some of the old evidence to a new forensic lab," Cole explained. "Something was missed in the initial investigation. A strand of DNA. It wasn't identified at the time, but the lab was able to process it now." Lena's breath caught in her throat. DNA, the key to finding out who had killed her daughter. For years, they had struggled without it. Now they had a lead. But as Cole handed Lena the printout with the forensic results, her hands shook. The DNA sample didn't match anyone in their database. Not a suspect, not a known criminal, not anyone they had previously investigated. This wasn't just a random sample. It was unique. The lab had found a genetic anomaly, one that no one had ever seen before. The DNA wasn't human, at least not entirely. It had traces of something else, something man-made. "What does this mean?" Lena whispered, her voice thick with disbelief. "We think the killer's using some kind of genetic manipulation, Lena. We're not sure how yet, but it's the only explanation for the anomaly. This might be the break we've been waiting for." Lena's heart pounded in her chest as the words sank in. Genetic manipulation? Her mind raced. How was this possible? Could someone really alter their DNA? And why would they leave traces of it at the crime scene? As Lena left the precinct, the weight of the news pressed down on her. The more she thought about it, the more questions piled up in her mind. Was Emily's killer a scientist? A geneticist? How could something like this go unnoticed for so long? But nothing could have prepared her for the shocking twist that would follow. The investigation took a darker turn when Detective Cole came to her the following week with more information. The DNA matched someone, but not in a way they could have predicted. It was a match to a person Lena had known all her life. David Brooks, Lena's husband, the man she had trusted, the man who had promised to protect her and their family. How was this possible? David was the last person anyone would suspect. He had always been a loving father, a hard-working man. Lena had never once questioned his loyalty, his integrity. Yet the evidence was clear. David's genetic material had been found at the crime scene, mingled with Emily's blood. "You have to be mistaken," Lena said, her voice shaking as she sat across from Cole. "David couldn't have done this. He was with me that night." "We're not saying he did it, Lena," Cole said gently, "but we need to talk to him. He's the one we need to focus on now." Lena didn't know what to believe anymore. Her mind felt like it was unraveling. Could her husband really be involved in something so horrific? The idea seemed impossible, but the evidence was right there, staring her in the face. A week later, Lena confronted David. She needed answers. She needed to hear it from him, to see the truth in his eyes. "David, they found your DNA," she said, her voice tight, "at the scene. Why?" David went pale, his eyes darting around the room, avoiding hers. "Lena, I swear, I don't know what you're talking about." But as Lena dug deeper, she uncovered a shocking truth. David had been involved in a secret research project years ago, one that had to do with genetic engineering. He'd been working with a group of scientists, testing ways to enhance human DNA. They'd been on the verge of groundbreaking discoveries, but the project was shut down when one of the tests went horribly wrong. David had tried to bury his past, to forget about it. But the project's dark legacy had followed him, and now it had taken Emily's life. "I didn't know it would go this far," David admitted, his voice breaking. "I never wanted this. But when the project got shut down, we had to cover our tracks. I thought I could control it, Lena. I thought I could stop it. But something went wrong. The experiments, they got out of hand. And when Emily found out, Lena's world shattered. The killer had been so close to her all along. David had been hiding the truth from her, protecting himself while Emily paid the price. The truth finally came out. Lena's daughter hadn't just been murdered by a random killer. She had been caught in the web of a genetic experiment gone wrong, a secret her own husband had been part of. But the killer wasn't just David. It was a shadow of the past, a dangerous legacy that had been buried for far too long. As Lena stood over Emily's grave, she knew that the truth had come at an unbearable cost. And though she now understood the horror that had unfolded, she couldn't help but feel one final question gnawing at her mind. Was David truly the killer? Or had he been part of something far bigger than anyone could have imagined? The answers were buried with the truth, and the haunting echoes of the past would forever remain.